Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we are shaping and toning into the waist. If your belly feels more like a one-pack barrel instead of a six-pack after the festive season, then you're in the right place to do a little bit of work today. We're going to be playing today with short bursts of movement to up our cardio and conditioning work. And the whole time that you're playing on the mat today, I want you to mindfully look for work in the belly area, playing with stretching or elongating movements, especially in the lower belly area, and then contracting, almost rounding out, pulling up from the pubis, tucking down from the sternum, and pulling in from the side so that the whole belly area is engaged. We are going to be spending a fair amount of time on the knees. So if you have particularly sensitive knees, maybe grab a little hand towel that you can use for a little bit of padding underneath the knees. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify your movements where you need to, and feel comfortable to take a time out in child pose as and when you need it. You ready to play? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up today standing in the middle of the mat, and open up your feet a little bit wider than hip width distance apart, and maybe softly splay them out. Find a comfortable stance, tuck your tailbone under, pull the belly button in, and start pulling up from the lower pubic area towards the waistline. Float your hands out into a T-frame. You're going to give me half a helicopter sway through the arms as you bend and pivot on the back leg. The whole time I want you to pull up from the pubic area and suck in that gut and give me a nice little lengthening stretch through the lower belly area. Exhale every time you come into the half twist. Inhale to transition and come through the center line. You're going to give me 2 more sets. Last set. Drop the arms softly at your side and heel toe until your feet are stacking in parallel underneath your hips. Float your hands to prayer in front of your heart. Take a big breath in and float your prayer hands overhead, looking for a stretching in the belly area. As you come down, contract, round out through the belly, pull up from the pubis, tuck down from the sternum, pull in from the sides, and then lengthen through the lower belly area. You're going to play with that contraction and that stretch through the belly area. Keep your knees soft as you play. So allow for almost a little micro bend in the knees. Don't lock them out. And keep looking mindfully for that work in the belly area. Inhale as you stretch overhead, almost piercing the ceiling, and then exhale to round out and contract. You're going to give me 2 more like this. Last one. Float your hands overhead, and this time just keep stretching through the lower belly as you come down through the center line and then twist side to side, giving me a little bend through the legs. You're going to play with that movement, floating your prayer hands overhead to pierce the ceiling, coming down, stopping in front of your heart, and then taking a half rotation to each side, giving me a nice little micro bend through the knees. Make sure you're playing with that bend, almost pivoting on the back foot so that you're not putting any torque on the knees. Keep looking for stretch, lengthening in the lower belly area as we play with the set. So no rounding out and contracting, just keep looking for length in the belly area and work a little bit into the obliques. So feel a stretch from the ribs to the hip bone as you twist off the center line. Let's do 2 more sets, and then we'll bring it down onto the knees and we'll play with a camel and a little hovering tabletop line. As you complete your last one, drop down to the knees. Remember, place a little bit of padding underneath the knees if you need it, and come to a 4-point kneeling position on the mat. Tuck your toes under. Exhale, hover the knees just off the floor. Holding for roughly 10 seconds and playing with a soft little rounding, so think cat stretch through the belly. Then drop the knees to the floor and come into a little camel stretch, keeping the toes tucked under, floating both hands into your lower back and looking for that stretch into the lower belly area. Holding the camel and the little tabletop hover for roughly 10 seconds each. Come back into your tabletop line. Exhale and round out, holding that rounded frame as you hover the knees just off the floor for roughly 10 seconds. Pull up from the pubis and tap down from the sternum, pulling in from the sides. Drop to the knees, find your camel line. Big inhale as you open up through the chest and stretch that area below the belly button, or rather between the belly button and the pubis. Let's do 2 more sets. Nice contraction through the core as you hover those knees off the floor, pushing the mat strongly away with your hands. Then drop to the knees. Make sure your hips are stacked over your knees as you support the lower back and look for a little stretch in the lower belly area, floating the 2 shoulder blades together and expanding laterally through the chest. Last set. Exhale to round up. Find your little camel line. As you drop to your next 4-point kneel, give me a fisted line with the wrists looking in, and step your feet back into a plank line. Exhale for a down dog. Inhale for a plank. You're going to move dynamically between the modified down dog and the plank. If keeping the fisted line is too much for you, give me a flat hand, fingertips looking towards the front end of your mat. Keep your belly engaged the whole time. So I want you to give me a nice strong brace or a contraction through the core, almost as if somebody had punched you in the gut. Give me 2 more. Then softly drop to the knees and flip over, finding a seated frame, bracing softly into your feet, and feet more or less hip-width distance apart, arms long at your side, fingertips connected to the floor. Give me a big breath in and then float your hands back till they're stacking underneath your armpits. Bend the knees, keep them hip-width distance apart, and push your hips up towards the ceiling, coming into a little tabletop line, and then reverse, coming back to your start position. You're going to shoot for roughly 10 repetitions, looking for that work through the belly area. So really bring those hips up towards the ceiling nice and evenly, and look for a strong brace through the core as you come into the tabletop position. Try to keep your feet and your knees hip-width distance apart as you play. Let's do 4 more. Last 2, and then we'll bring it down onto the elbows from here. Keep that core brace the whole time that you're playing. As you complete your last one and find your way back to a seated frame, float onto the elbows, stacking comfortably underneath your armpits. Float your feet together along the midline of the body. Nod your chin to your chest and don't collapse into the floor. I want you to push your way through the forearms. Keep your core braced and float your chest to the ceiling. Nod your chin to your chest, look down towards your pubis, and try to lift and lower both legs together 10 times. If this is too much for you, bend one leg, connecting the sole of the foot to the floor, and give me 5 single lifts on one side before changing and taking it to the other side. Keep your core braced, keep your chin tucked towards the chest, and keep looking for that work in the belly. You're going to give me 2 more, and then we'll bring it down onto the back. So once you've completed your last set, bend the knees, connect the soles of the feet to the mat, and scooch down onto your back. Arms overhead, more or less in a soft parallel line, with the palms softly looking into the center line. Begin in neutral spine with a comfortable space between your lower back and the mat, allowing for that S-curve in your spine. Take a big breath in to prepare, and on the exhale, scoop, tilt your pelvis to 12 o'clock, round out, imprinting your lower back into the mat, peeling the legs up into table and hovering here for 2 or 3 seconds before coming back to the mat. Exhale to round out, lower back imprinted into the mat, 2 fingers of air between the chin and the chest, and the weight just off the shoulders, looking for a really strong contraction through the core as you round out into that tabletop line, making your belly button as heavy to the mat as you can, as you round up. You're going to give me 2 more like this, and then you're going to play with the next progression, or you're going to simply repeat the same set that you've just done. Once you've reconnected to the mat, elongate the legs along the mat and find that neutral spine position. Give me a soft brace into the feet. Exhale to scoop and round out, floating your legs to 90 and hovering the arms alongside you, just off the mat. As you tilt the pelvis to the 12 o'clock position, imprinting your lower back into the mat and bringing the weight just off the shoulders, looking for that strong contraction on the exhale as you scoop to peel up. Let's do 3 more, and then we're going to flip over on the mat and find our way back to a loose 4-point kneel. As you complete the last set, bend the knees, connect the soles of the feet to the mat, roll over onto one side, set yourself up in a 4-point kneeling frame, and then on the exhale, find your way into a down dog. And then on the inhale, come through a plank line, dropping into a controlled up dog, looking for a stretch in the lower belly area, and exhale to hit your down dog. Come through the plank line with control, not whiplashing and hanging on the shoulders. So I want you to keep control of the movement, really nice and strong through the shoulders. Keep that core braced and keep looking for that nice little stretch in the lower belly area as you drop to the up dog through the plank line. Let's do 4 more, and we'll take a little time out in child pose. As you complete the last one, drop to 4-point kneeling and allow the big toes to come together, splay the knees softly out, and just extend the arms softly on the mat in front of you, taking a nice little time out in child pose. Remember that child pose is your rest or recovery pose at any time during the class, should you need it. From here, find your way back to 4-point kneeling. Fist your hands and allow the wrists to rotate in towards the center line. Tuck your toes under, make sure your feet are tracking underneath your knees. You're going to just gently hover those knees off the floor in a tabletop line, so your back is neither convex nor concave. Pretend that you've got a little teacup and a saucer that you're trying to balance on the mid-back area. Then relax to the mat and allow the palms of your hands to connect to the mat. You're going to play between that straight tabletop line, and then you're going to exhale to round out, finding a cat stretch, hollowing out through the belly and looking for that contraction. Bring it back to a tabletop line and look for a little stretch in the lower belly area. So playing between that rounding out and a flat back table, looking for a tiny stretch in the lower belly area as you find that tabletop line. Exhale to round out. Inhale to find that table. Exhale to round out. Inhale to find that table. You're going to give me 2 more, and then we're going to reverse the movement. So after your last one, you're going to inhale to give me a little cow stretch, hollowing out through the back, taking your chin and your bum bones to the ceiling and really stretching through the lower belly area. And then inhale to come back to the table, decreasing that stretch into the lower belly area. So just dropping, almost making your belly button heavy to the mat and then coming back to neutral. You're going to shoot for 10 controlled repetitions, playing with that stretch in the lower belly area. Keep the belly button softly pulled in towards the center line the whole time, and just increase and decrease the amount of pressure into the lower belly area so that you're really stretching and decreasing that stretch into the lower belly area. 2 more like this, then we'll flow dynamically between the cat and the cow. Exhale to round out. Inhale to come through neutral spine, transitioning into your cow. So you're playing with a convex and a concave shape through the back, stretching through the lower belly area, and then rounding out and contracting through the belly area. Exhale to round out. Inhale to find that concave shape. Give me 4 more. As you complete the last one, you're going to find from your tabletop line, you're going to walk yourself back into a stack position, almost as if you were coming into a camel line with your feet soft and relaxed behind you. Float your hands to prayer in front of your heart. You're going to give me a little side stretch, and as you dip the weight off the center line, you're going to float your prayer hands overhead and look for a nice little lengthening stretch through the lower belly area. Try not to dip at the waist and drop your bum to your heels. So keep a nice, almost an inverted plank line through the belly so that you're really stretching through the waist and the trunk. Inhaling as you come off the center line, and exhale as you come back to your start position, stacking your hips over your knees. Give me 2 more, and then we'll come back to that 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. Find your setup. We're going to play with a little bit of dynamic movement here. Give me that nice tabletop line that we began with. And then stretch opposite arm and leg. Let's do left leg, right arm, coming into extension. Holding for about 3 seconds. Then take the arm and the leg softly out to the side for roughly 3 seconds. Come back to the center line. Drop both hands to the mat. Keep that leg floating. Bend through the elbows, giving me a little oil rigger. All right, let's start moving with purpose. Arm and leg into extension. Take it out to 90. Bring it back to the midline. Drop both hands to the floor. Give me a little bend through the elbows, keeping that leg hovering. Arm and leg in extension. Take it out to the side. Come back to the center line. Drop the hand to the mat. Take a little bend through the elbow, trying to hover your chin just off the floor. We're going to do 2 more sets. The whole time you're keeping that core strongly braced. And keep hugging the elbows in towards the center line as you take that modified chaturanga. Once you've completed your last one, float back into your kneeling frame, hands in prayer. Dip just off the center line, floating your prayer hands overhead, and then coming back to your start position. Give me an active prayer, so you're pushing softly into the palms the whole time so that you can feel the work through the arms, chest, upper back and shoulders, and you're keeping that core engaged the whole time, looking for that nice stretch in the lower belly area as you dip off the center line. 2 more, then we're going to work that little combo on the other side. Find your way back to 4-point kneeling. Let's do left arm, right leg, coming into the extension. Take the limbs out to the side, come back to the center line. Give me a little oil rigger. Arm and leg extended. Take it out to the side. Bring it back to the center line. Drop the hand to the floor. Keep the leg floating as you bend through the elbows, trying to hover your chin just off the floor. Shoot for 3 more repetitions if you can, and keep that core strongly braced the whole time that you're playing. Keep hugging those elbows in towards the center line. As you complete the last one, come back to your start position on the mat. Find your kneeling stack, floating your prayer hands overhead as you side stretch to come back to your start position. Keep lengthening through the trunk and the spine. So pretend that there's a suction cup attached to the crown of your head, and it's gently pulling the crown up to the ceiling the whole time. So think length through the trunk and the spine as you dip off the center line. 2 more, then we'll come back to that 4-point kneeling frame and we'll play up a little tiger stretch. Let's get creative today. Come back to your 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. Extend the left arm and the right leg, coming into the extension. Bring it back to the mat. Take it to the other side, left leg, right arm. All right, ready to play? Stay or play. Bend the back leg, reach opposite hand to foot, squaring up softly through the hips as you take a little tiger stretch. pushing into that hand, bracing through the core, looking down at the mat, or softly throwing your head back and gently looking up to the ceiling. Then let go of the foot and drop to the elbow, rotating the forearm in. Pivot slightly onto the side and see if you can bring the big toes together, coming into a little balance, and maybe reaching the top hand as if you wanted to slice through the groin and touch between the big toes. Holding it for a few seconds, maybe between 5 and 10 seconds, bracing through the core, and then finding your way back to full point kneeling on the mat, and come back into extension, floating left arm, right leg coming into a soft extended line, either holding this line or bending the back leg, reaching opposite hand to foot. Think of squaring up through the hips, either keeping your gaze down on the mat or gently giving me more of a crescent shape through the back as you come into Tiger, Virasana. Then when you're ready to play, drop onto the elbow of the left arm, rotating the forearm in, pivot slightly through the hips. Join the big toes together behind you, so almost making a diamond shape between the legs. And then extend through the top arm as if you were slicing through the groin, trying to touch the area between the two big toes. Then ease your way back to the mat. Lengthen through the spine and pivot onto the right leg. So rotate the right leg and find your way into a half a gate line or a modified side plank, floating your top arm up to 90. Think of giving me a soft T-frame through the arms, and then bring the left leg up so that you've got a nice little tabletop line. Hold for roughly 10 seconds. And then we're going to introduce some dynamic movement. Take the top arm over so that it's flush with your ear. So you almost got a straight line through the wrist, the arm and the leg. Then float the arm and the leg up towards the ceiling as if you wanted to allow the limbs to touch. I want you to look for a contraction through the trunk and keep your core engaged. Exhaling as you bring the two limbs towards the center line, and inhaling as you come back into extension. Give me 3, 2, last one. All right, look carefully. Step up the top leg so that it's in front of your knee on the bottom leg, and then extend the bottom leg behind you, knife edging it and finding a modified side plank. Hold or play dynamically. The leg that's long and lengthened on the mat, you're going to bend that knee and tuck it in towards your chest and tap the knee with your hand, almost rounding out and hollowing through the belly as you do so. Stay here or play with the next progression by tucking the hand behind your head in a surrender fashion and then rounding out almost as if you wanted to tap the elbow to the knee. It's going to feel impossible to get the elbow to the knee, so don't force the contraction, just look for a soft contraction through the belly. Give me 2 more. Last one. Coming to a full side plank, stacking one leg on top of the other and holding, or bend the bottom leg and extend the top if you prefer. Find your side plank and then bend, or rather dip and lift. Dip and lift. If you're playing with the extension, just dip your hip towards the floor and come back. Dip and come back. Give me 2 more. As you complete your last one, step the top leg up and just find your way into a little half camel line by stepping the left leg out, foot in line with the knee. Take the left hand to the inside of the left knee, float the right hand into your lower back and take a little stretch. So side view. Then drop to the mat and set up your side plank on side 2. Make sure you're not working the same side twice. Find your stack on the mat, finding that T-frame first through the arms, and then lift the leg up so that it's in line with your hip and hold for roughly 10 seconds. When you're ready to play dynamically, float the arm closer towards your ear, find that long tabletop line, and then float the arm and the leg up towards the ceiling as if you wanted to tap the two together, looking for a nice little contraction through your waist. 4 more to go. And we're going to do that little step up, yeah? So as you complete the last one, take your extended leg, step it in front of the bent knee, and then extend the leg behind you. Once you've found your position, you're going to think of bringing that extended leg towards your belly. So think knee to belly button as you tap with the top arm, almost hollowing out through your belly and giving me a soft contraction. Either staying here or working the next progression by tucking the hand behind your head, and think of giving me more contraction through the belly as you draw the knee towards your nose, and think of trying to tap the elbow to your knee. Look for that contraction in your core. 2 more, then we're going to hold a full side plank, stacking your legs one on top of the other, finding Vasisthasana and holding. When you're ready to play dynamically, dip or drop the hip towards the floor and then pike the hips back up towards the ceiling. Keep belly button to spine the whole time. The last one, we're going to find our way into a little camel line. Bend the bottom leg, step out on the right leg, and find your half camel line on the right. Then swivel on the mat, face the front of your mat, and find a little kneeling frame on the mat. Hips stacking over your knees. Float your hands to pray. Inhale to come overhead, looking for a stretch in the lower belly area. Exhale to round out, scooping, hollowing out through the frame, and then coming back to your start position. So stretching and then contracting and rounding out through the belly. Exhale as you round out. Inhale as you lengthen through the lower belly area, almost trying to pierce the ceiling with your fingertips. Let's do 2 more. As you complete the last one, find your way softly onto the palms and then drop to the elbows. We're going to play with a little dynamic elbow dolphin. Think down dog and float your bum up towards the ceiling, keeping your weight on the forearms. Then come into a forearm plank and pike back up into the quarter dog position. So think down dog, plank, down dog, plank. Keep pushing softly through the elbows and the forearms as if you were trying to resist the mat, and keep your core braced the whole time. Let's do 2 more, and then we'll find our way into a little elbow plank and we'll play it up. So as you complete the last one, drop to the knees and swivel the right arm in so that the forearm is parallel to the front of the mat. Pivot onto the side, stacking your foot behind the knee, and find a modified elbow side plank. Hold, keeping the knee bent or extending and stacking both legs, piking the hips up nice and high towards the ceiling. Stay or play. To play, tuck the hand of the top arm behind your head in a surrender fashion, and then give me a little contraction through the side as if you wanted to draw the elbow and the knee towards each other, looking for a little bit of shaping work, almost a little pinch through the trunk. Give me 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Drop down onto the hips. Keep that stack, so don't collapse your ribs towards the floor. Push up, stack your elbow underneath your armpit. Brace your top hand into the mat. The legs are stacked and the feet are soft. Drag the big toe of the top leg along the inseam of the bottom leg and then kick up towards the ceiling. Finding an almost cycling motion, dragging along the inseam and then gently kicking up towards the ceiling. Don't drop through the ribs, So the rib cage is nice and high, almost as if you had a little ball underneath the ribs that was pushing them gently up towards the ceiling. Let's do 3 more. Last one. You're going to end with that top leg bent and the toe connected to the inseam of the bottom leg. Drop the top knee towards the floor and come back to your start position. Think window wiper. You're going to do that 10 times. Keep the belly button pulled into the center line. Keep lengthening through the ribs and contracting through the top portion of the trunk. Let's do 2 more, and then we'll come onto the belly and we'll move into a cobra line. Dropping or rotating, dropping onto the forearms, finding Sphinx first with your elbows stacking underneath your armpits and just lengthening through the spine. Stay in Sphinx or morph into a cobra line by sliding or walking your hands back towards your body line and trying to extend off the mat, allowing the top of your thighs to still softly connect to the mat and just lengthen, drop the shoulders away from your ears and look for that stretch into the lower belly area. Find child pose. Big toes together, knees open nice and wide. Extend the arms out in front and take a nice little stretch. From here, slide your way forward, finding your way back onto the forearms. You're going to step the legs back into an elbow plank. You're going to brace through the core and you're going to hold softly for 10. Look for that contraction through the core. 5, 4, 3, 2. We're going to come into a side plank. So you're going to rotate the left arm in. Forearm is parallel to the front of your mat. Either flipping over and stacking one leg on top of the other as you come into the side plank, or bending the bottom leg and extending the top. Wherever you're playing, check that you're not dropping into the mat. Pretend you've got that beach ball underneath your waist that's keeping your hips up nice and high. So look for that work through your trunk and keep your core braced. Stay or play. To play, bend the elbow of the top arm, tuck behind your head in a surrender-like fashion. And then think of floating your top knee and the elbow along the center line as if you wanted to tap the two together, looking for that contraction through the trunk. Keep that rib cage nice and high. Let's do 2 more. And then we'll connect the bottom hip to the floor. Keep that stack through the ribs nice and high. Feet are softly stacked. Bend the top knee, dragging the big toe along the inseam of the leg to kick up towards the ceiling. Cycling through roughly 10 times. Keep that bottom rib cage nice and high as you play. Let's do 3 more. And we'll play with that little window wiper. So as you complete the last one, keep the top leg bent, keep the toe connected to the inseam of the bottom leg, keep your ribs nice and high, drop the top knee towards the floor and come back to your start position. Keep the ribs nice and high, keep belly button to spine. Let's do 5 more. Then we'll find our way onto the belly and we'll look for that little cobra stretch through the lower belly area. Once you've done your last repetition, roll over onto the belly. Check your stack first. So you've got the elbows stacked underneath your armpits and you're going to extend through the back. Drop your chin softly and look down towards the mat, looking for extension through the spine, stretching through the lower belly area, either staying in your Sphinx line or sliding or walking the hands back and finding your way into a gentle cobra line. Keep the elbows soft, drop the shoulders away from your ears and look mindfully for that stretch in the lower belly area. Play where you're comfortable. Gently ease your way back into child pose, Balasana. Big toes together, knees open nice and wide. Arms extended on the mat in front of you. Push into both hands, sink the weight of your bum bones back and pull that belly button in. Suck that tummy in. From here, we're going to find our way to a seated frame. Think of coming through 4-point kneeling, maybe coming onto the fingertips, tucking your toes under, floating your bum up, finding a relaxed dog, and then stepping or hopping forward, crossing the legs as you do so to find a seated frame more or less in the middle of your mat. Check that you've got enough room to find your way onto the back in a minute. We're going to play up Navasana Boat. Start sitting up nice and tall with the knees bent and the soles of the feet connected to the mat. Hands may be softly braced on your shins. Lengthen through the spine. Take a big breath in and dip the weight just off your center line. You're going to keep this position with the weight just off your center line the whole time. You're pulling up softly through the inner thighs and giving me a strong pull up from the pubic bone towards your waistline. You're going to float the arms and legs into a soft, almost T-frame, and then come back to your start position. You're going to do that roughly 5 times. On the 5th time, you're going to roll all the way down, coming into a hollow hold with your lower back imprinted into the mat. Core is braced and the weight just off the shoulders. Then you're going to peel back up and you're going to come into a scissor hold, trying to float one leg softly up to the ceiling and holding along the back chain, roughly for 5 seconds, and then change legs. If the scissor hold is not possible, come back to your little half boat tuck and just brace your hands, palms down on the shins. Drop the soles of your feet to the mat. Lengthen through your spine. We're going to do 2 more sets, moving with fluidity this time. All right, find your boat line, opening up the arms and the legs into T. Shooting for 5 repetitions, look for that contraction, that work through your core. On the 5th time, you're going to slowly roll down, giving me a little hollow T-frame hold, looking down towards your pubis and bracing through the core. So keep that core nicely braced. Then peel back up and come into a scissor hold, or find your way back into boat and just brace on the shins. Keep pulling that belly button in and then change legs. Drop the soles of your feet to the mat, brace into the shins and lengthen through the spine. Pretend that there's a suction cup attached to the crown of your head and dragging it up towards the ceiling. Dip the weight just off the center line and play with your soft boat T and tucking back to center, shooting for roughly 5 repetitions. On the 5th one, you're going to roll down, hold, lower back is scooped and imprinted, 2 fingers of air between the chin and the chest, weight just off the shoulders. Find that contraction through the core to peel up, giving me a soft, almost scissoring motion through the legs, holding anywhere along the back chain of the leg that you can connect to, and then changing sides. Keep the weight just off your tailbone and that bottom leg floating off the mat. Drop the soles of the feet to the mat, lengthen through the spine as you brace softly against the shins. And then you're going to give me 1 seated roll down to come onto the back, and we're going to start playing with a little supine twist. And we'll play it up, layering the exercise like an onion and reveal 1 layer at a time. Float the legs out softly in front of you. Arms extended out in front, palms looking in. Back line nice and lengthened. Keep that contraction through the core. Nod your chin to your chest, round out through the core, using your core strength to drop down 1 vertebra at a time. As you connect to the mat, bring the arms and the legs into soft extension. Allow for a neutral spine, little space between your lower back and the mat, and just lengthen through the fingertips and the toes, looking for a delicious stretch in that lower belly area. Then relax through the limbs. Start with your palms looking in towards the center line. Then rotate the palms away from you. Float the back of your hands towards the center line and then clip 1 palm into the other. So you're almost in an inverted prayer and maybe cross the thumbs one over the other. Push into both palms and brace into the heels as you take that little stretch through the lower belly area. Then unclip your hands and restack the opposite hand in front. pushing into both palms and bracing into the heels, keeping that neutral spine position, but making your belly button as heavy towards the mat as you can. Unclip, float the arms softly into a T-frame, bend the knees and connect the soles of your feet to the mat, allowing your lower back to just relax into the mat for a second. We're going to play with Supta Mariachiyasana, a little supine twist, and we'll add some layers on. Draw your legs up into a tabletop position and try not to pull the knees in too close to your chest. So try to have the knees softly stacked over your hips, the legs more or less in a tabletop fashion, with the knees and the feet softly clipped together. Take a big breath in, and on the exhale, dip just off the center line to the left as you slowly look to the right. Look for that stretch through the obliques, so a little stretch from the rib cage on the right to the hip bone on the right. Inhale and come back to the center. Exhale, come just off the center line to the right and hold. You're going to give me 4 more iterations, and each time you're going to drop the knees progressively closer to the floor, working within your range of motion. Big breath in, come back to the center. Exhale, drop to the left, maybe this time to about 60 degrees, if your first drop was to 80. Come back to the center line on an inhale. On an exhale, drop to about 60 on side 2. Moving your head in the opposite direction to the knee. So the knee's dropping in one direction and you softly rotate through the other side. Bring it back. Drop to side 1, taking it maybe to about 40 degrees this time. Keep bracing through the opposite shoulder. So try not to allow that opposite shoulder to peel up off the mat. Inhale and come back to center. Exhale, drop to about 40 on side 2. Keep that opposite shoulder heavy into the mat. Keep softly pulling the belly button into center. Come back to the center line. Drop down low, just off the floor, to about 20. Keep that opposite shoulder nice and heavy into the mat. Inhale and come back to center. Exhale, drop. If your range of motion is not that great, play where you are, or you could even take a block and wedge it underneath the thighs, between the floor and the thighs, for some additional support. Come back towards the center line, drop all the way down to the floor if you can, and hold that stretch. Maybe softly placing the left fingertips on top of the right knee and pulling down to increase that stretch into the lower back area. Work mindfully, so let your back be your guide as to how far to take the stretch. Inhale and come back to the center line. Exhale as you slowly rotate to the opposite side. Keep that shoulder connected to the mat, maybe taking the right fingertips and pulling softly down on the top of the left knee as you come into the twist. We're going to play with this full drop when we come back to side 1. Inhale, come back, drop all the way over to your full drop on the right. Stay here or extend the top leg and reach for your toes or the undercarriage of your foot. Brace or kick into your hand, try to extend through the top leg, and just keep the bottom leg comfortably bent in the position it was in. Rotate your head in the opposite direction and keep that opposite shoulder blade heavy into the mat, belly button firmly pulled into center. Bend the top leg, roll softly back, allowing the sacrum and the lower back to relax into the mat as you come through the center line, to drop both legs to the right as you look to the left. Then see if you can extend the top leg, reaching for the toes or maybe the undercarriage of your foot. Brace or kick into the hand and really try to stretch that top leg, opening up that little kink behind the knee. Keep your opposite shoulder blade nice and heavy into the mat. Inhale and come back to center. Let's work the next progression. Roll all the way over to side 1. Extend the top leg, holding onto your toes or the foot, and then focus on your bottom leg. Think of allowing the knee to draw away from the center line, almost as if you were bringing the foot and the knee as close to your spine as you can. Work within your range of motion. There's no right or wrong here. Just try to play up the stretch slightly. Make sure your head is floated in the opposite direction and that your opposite shoulder, the right shoulder, is nice and heavy into the mat. Keep your belly button softly pulled into center. Draw the bottom leg back, find your stack, and roll softly back through the center line, allowing your lower back to relax into the mat as you roll through. Drop both knees to the right. As you look to the left, extend the top leg, finding your foothold, and then bring your attention to the bottom leg. Draw the foot and the knee away, as if you wanted to bring the foot as close towards your spinal line as you can. Keep your opposite shoulder nice and heavy into the mat, and make sure your head is looking in the opposite direction to that top leg. Belly button firmly pulled in. One more progression to go. Find your way back to the center line. Find your stack first, and then roll the knees back. Drop both knees to the left as you look to the right. Extend the top leg, finding your foothold or your grasp. Then allow the bottom leg to slide away. Peel up through the shoulders and reach for your foot, so opposite hand to foot. Then reconnect your shoulders to the mat and try to make that right shoulder as heavy to the mat as you can. Try and bind to both feet, giving each a little tug away from the center line. So there's almost a soft bend through the elbows as you tug the feet away from the center line. Let go of the feet. Find your stack at your T-frame. Allow the lower back to relax as you roll through the center line. If you need to, give me a little cradle rock along the center line just to relax your lower back before you repeat the stretch one more time to the last side. Find your stack. T-arms, big breath in. Float both legs to the right as you look to the left. Extend the top leg, binding and holding onto that foot, and then slide the bottom leg away. Peel up through the shoulders, reaching opposite hand to foot, and then tug both feet away from the center line, playing within your range of motion. Keep that bottom shoulder nice and heavy to the mat, and make sure that your head is looking in the opposite direction to your top leg. So the top leg is traveling to the right and your head is looking to the left. Keep your belly button firmly pulled in to center. Then softly unbind. Draw the knees back to the original stack position. Arms are back into a T. Float back along the center line. Maybe gently cradle rocking your lower back out. Drop the soles of your feet to the mat, almost as if you were coming into a bridge line. Float your hands to prayer with your wrist line resting on your chest bone and the fingertips looking to the ceiling. Begin in neutral spine. On an exhale, round up, tilt your pelvis to 12 o'clock, imprint your lower back into the mat, and then inhale to come back to neutral. You're going to play dynamically with that movement. Exhaling to round out, relaxing the lower back, and finding a nice contraction through the belly as you do that, and then bring it back to neutral, almost giving me a little stretch into the lower belly area. Think of this as a supine cat-cow. You're looking for that contraction as you round out, and then that little stretch through the lower belly area as you allow your spine to come back into neutral. You're going to give me 2 more. The last one. As you complete the last one, float your arms and legs into extension, allowing for a neutral spine. Bend the knees, drag the big toes along the mat, round out. Find that little contraction through your belly, and then come back into the extension. As you drag the big toes along the mat and brace into the heels, stretch that area south of your belly button. Do that about 4 more times. Exhaling to round out, scooping, imprinting your lower back into the mat, weight just off the shoulders, looking for that contraction. And then as you brace and come back into extension, looking for that stretch through the lower belly area, using your breath. Last one. Drop the soles of your feet to the mat. Float your hands to prayer. Close your eyes, take your focus in for a moment. Just make a little bit of time to thank your body for playing along this morning. and end off your practice by touching your fingertips to the third eye and saying Namaste. Thank you so much for coming out and playing on the mat with me today. Stay on the back for as long as you're comfortable, and when you're ready to come up, gently roll over onto the side, maybe using your bottom arm as a pillow. Stay here for a couple of beats before you push into the top hand. Come up gently, bringing your head up last and just allowing your blood pressure to stabilize before you come to a standing position. Hope that you enjoyed today's waist extender. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Shoot me your comments in the comments box below. And remember to subscribe to my channel with your notification bell on. I shall see you all for Pilates conditioning tomorrow. Till then, keep it light.